Woo! All right. By the seat of our pants, welcome everybody to Previews World Weekly. It's Wednesday. It's Comic Book Day. I'm one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm the other host, Ashton Greenwood, aka the Duchess of Free Comic Book Day, with your weekly reminder to mark your calendars for Saturday, August 14th. That will be Free Comic Book Day at your local comic shop. There are 50 fantastic titles for you to choose from. Literally something for every kind of comic fan. There's Star Wars, Assassin's Creed, The Boys. There's all kinds of stuff that's like more mainstream. There's more indie stuff. Whatever you want, you can get it on August 14th.
There you go. Thank you very much, Ashton. We're looking out for all you nerds out there. And just want to reiterate, no, Free Comic Book Day did not pass. It is coming up. Jason Parker, hello there, folks. What's up, Jason? Peter Gasper, hey, all. What's up, Peter? What's up? What's up? Well, just don't greet us just yet, because we also have a special guest. You got to make sure you greet them, too, or it's just rude, right? So, hey, our special guest this week is from... Well, I was about to say New Release Wednesday. That's not what it's called anymore. It's called Nerds Rule the World, and he's the producer and host of Nerds Rule the World. He's also behind one of the contributors to Nerds of Color. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask him if this is his real name. Patrick Michael Strange. Welcome to the show, my man.
Yo, what's up? Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ashton. Thank you, Troy. Pleasure to see you guys. First time meeting Ashton. It's a pleasure to meet you, and Troy. Looking handsome as always, brother. Looking good.
Thanks, man. Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother. Yeah, no, man. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us. We do this thing where we have our guests on, where we ask them just to kind of lay the groundwork, for the next hour, right? What type of nerd are you? And we're going to get into all the other stuff that you do in the media game. But I want to know about you personally. What type of nerd are you? And you can go in any direction you want with that.
That's a good one, man. I have never really thought about it like that, because I love comics, I love film, I love TV, obviously the comics and Spider-Man, Marvel. Although a lot of people think you're just a straight Marvel guy, I'm a DC guy too. I like DC, but I guess nowadays, because I haven't really read much comic books in a minute. Although I did read some new Image stuff, which we'll get into with my picks. But I'm more of a film guy right now. Film guy, because I've been doing a lot of interviews lately. Talked to a bunch of cool cats recently, so I'd say I'm a film nerd right now. I can nerd about that. Right. Yeah, you can. Look, your nerd can fluctuate, right? Look, I've had times where I'm like, I'm so done with this comic book stuff, like I hate it, just because some storyline pisses me off or something. Yeah, that happens. I mean?
But then I've also done the same thing with movies, where I'm like, oh my god, they're just making everything the same. I'm sick of it. So look,
very true.
But the truth lies in the fact that eventually you will come back, right? So you might have a lapse right now in comics, but hopefully by the end of this, man, we'll be able to get you back onto some cool books that you want to read. So
totally.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump right into it, because we're gonna ask you some more questions about yourself a little bit later, Patrick. But we definitely were running a little late this week. So how about we get into the picks? We're gonna dive into what's at comic shops. Ashton's gonna go, Patrick's gonna go, I'm gonna go. And someone's calling me. Don't need that. And we're going to talk about the new comics that are hitting shelves this week. Let's go. Hallelujah. Indeed. It is New Comic Book Day, or New Release Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, you know what? I guess I'll let Patrick go first, since he's our guest. I saw you had kind of like a nice little list of stuff that you were like, you got the fanboy greed going. So I want to hear it.
I wanted to spotlight some of my friends that had new books that dropped this week, but I'll say that since they're also fit in the AAPI arena. Okay. So I want to give a shout out to Image Comics, man. With Julio Anta and Anna Wyachek. I'm probably mispronouncing her last name. They put out a book called Home. Issue number 2 drops today from Image Comics. It's an amazing book. And if there's a book that's going to get me back into the fold again, this is it. It's a immigrant story with, a lot of people trying to, escape, from the experiences they're experiencing to come to the U.S. for a better, life. And what if you happen to have superpowers? So it kind of fits like that immigration story along with superpowers. It's an amazing book. It speaks on everything. Julio and Anna are killing it. And issue 2 drops today. Check it out.
Cool. Cool. All right. Yeah, I love that. See, you can tell Patrick's done this before. First of all, he's got the Johnny pointed out, he's like, you're the kind of nerd that has an amazing backdrop. That's who you are. And he's absolutely right about it. You got the professional mic, and then he gave us like the little movie trailer guy staying at the end.
Right.
So I respect it. Thank you, Patrick. All right, that's a great pick. That's an awesome pick. What about you, Ashton? What are you picking up this week?
Okay, so my pick this week is for the We Live trade paperback from Aftershock. We've said this before on this show. Aftershock has really kind of found their stride with these like horror dystopia stories.
Yeah.
And so that's what this is. It's set in 2084, which I have to right off the bat say is like really not far enough into the future for me to be comfortable with what happens in this book. Like that's only 60 some years from now. I'm not okay with that. But so, set in 2084, the world is a hot mess, as you can tell by the cover. There's monsters, there's all kinds of calamities, disease. And so there's kind of like the last remaining humans are facing kind of a dangerous existence that's only exacerbated when they get a message from these space aliens who are like, guess what, fam? Extinction is coming in hot, but we'll help you out. We're going to take 5,000 of your kitties. So they're collecting 5,000 children. The center's on Toto, who is one of those 5,000, and his sister's trying to get him to a beacon to be picked up in time to go into hang out with the aliens in space. I don't know how I feel about the aliens just being like, we're going to kidnap your children, and everyone's like, yeah, take my kid. But this collects issues 1 through 5, and I also picked this somewhat in vain because We Live is a free comic book day story. Also, for Free Comic Book Day, again, Saturday, August 14th, Aftershock is doing a prequel to this that gives you kind of more of a background look at kind of how the world got this way and what things happened before they received that message from the aliens to collect those 5,000 children. So this will kind of set you up for that. And then you can also grab your free copy on August 14th.
There you go. Yeah, Ashton, I feel sometimes you should be the one writing the solicits for some of these comics. I love Extinction's coming in hot. I'm a big fan of that. That should be on the, Aftershock, if you're listening, Ashton just gave you a front cover blurb. There you go. Extinction's coming in hot. I love it.
You're welcome.
My pick this week. Real quick, as an aside, I just like literally last week finished Spider-Man Life Story by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley. And it surprised me. Like I expected I would like it, but I didn't know how much I would like it. And the concept behind that comic is that, look, Spider-Man's been around for 70 years now, I want to say, maybe 60, 70 years. And, he has never really aged. He kind of like got past teenage years and kind of got perpetually stuck in his late 20s, early 30s forever. Okay. So what they're doing with these life story books is they are basically saying like, okay, well, what if they aged in real time? Like how would the world events of each decade impact these characters specifically? And now they're doing one with the Fantastic Four, which I think is really interesting because the first book already teases some staples of the Fantastic Four, which is the Cold War and the space race. But with these books, they usually take a more, I hesitate to say realistic spin, but they take a very grounded spin on how it impacts these characters. And for example, in the Spider-Man book, Peter Parker really does struggle with whether or not he should go to Vietnam and do his part in the Vietnam War. And so you're going to get a lot of stuff like that. It's just sort of like, these characters existing in real time and the impact that these events have on them, whether it be, 9/11, would it be like, different wars, the actual real wars, not just like secret and civil wars of the Marvel variety. And so Mark Russell's doing this with Sean, I'm going to butcher his name, Azaskis, I believe his name is. And we have a free preview on the website right now, so definitely check that out. Yeah, I'm curious about this. I think the first book kind of surprised me with how emotional it was. And like, I'm kind of expecting a little bit more of the same here because, the real world implications of that impact these characters can be like pretty harsh. So yeah, check that out. Fantastic Four Life Story #1 out this week from Marvel Comics. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Red Room in a second, but before I do that, I'm going to fork it over to our very own Anamia. She's going to show you what's available at comic shops this week. And when we come back, I'll talk to you a little bit more about Red Room. Let's do it.
What's up, Previews World? Mia here, and I'm going to give you a look at some of the new titles in store this week. Here's what's at comic shops for the week of May 19th, 2021. Is that it? No way. Your comic shop has something for every type of customer. So stop at a comic shop today, and I'll see you back here next week.
And thank you, Anna Mia. And you can catch What's at Comic Shops, not just on this show, but you can catch it every Monday. It's its own individual video every single week. God bless her. Mia gives us a rundown of everything that's available at your local comic shop for that particular week. So, and then on top of that, of course, you can go to previewsworld.com/new releases and get the full rundown, because, of course, those are only some of the featured items. There's tons of comics, like a whole bunch of them dropping every single week. So that's just scratching the surface. Before I jump into Red Room real quick, let's get some user comments, viewer comments real quick. What's going on? Alana says, hey, finally caught you guys live. Hey, welcome. All right, cool. Christopher Poma, great to see you all. It's a great day. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna co-sign that. It's actually may not be great in here, but it's great outside. So we're going to do a Q&A with you real quick, Patrick. But real quick, I want to give a shout out to, I'm going to selfishly pick another book this week because I'm actually very curious about it. Perks of being one of the hosts. There's a book called Red Room. It's from Ed Piskor. It's out this week at your local comic shop. The only way I can describe this book is gnarly. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. I feel like that's appropriate given the type of creator Ed Piskor is. This is basically a murder mystery that takes place that circulates the dark web. If you know anything about the dark web, you know that all sorts of unsavory shenanigans can go down. And Piskor's kind of doing this David Cronenberg, David Lynch type murder mystery, cyberpunk outlaw thing with this comic. It's determined to be gross. It's determined to be weird. And there's a bunch of preview pages on previewsworld.com right now for you to take a look at. It's just different and it's unique, and I wanted to give it a shout out because, I'm a big fan of Cartoonist Kayfabe, which Ed Piskor is a host of, and he's been talking a good game about this comic for a while. I supported it on Patreon, but I waited until the book hit comic shelves to pick it up. So that's definitely my pull list this week, and if I remember correctly, it's already waiting for me. So yeah, definitely check that out. Red Room. That's from Fantagraphics, which I also got to point out apparently is it's actually the highest grossing Fantagraphics book in years. So that's another feather in Ed Piskor's cap. So there you go. All right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to shut up. It's time for you to talk, Patrick. You're going under the spotlights.
Hey, but Piskor's bananas. I love Piskor. Ed is amazing. So, shout out to that, man.
Absolutely.
I've heard a lot about the book. So, yeah, I want to cop that too.
Okay, cool. There you go. Look at that. See, we're already making changes for you right here, right now.
Actually, also free comic book day book. So if you want to wait and try to look at it.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. I like it.
So, Ashton, I'm gonna let you grill Patrick for a little bit.
Are you ready?
I guess so. Yeah, I'm as good as I'm gonna be.
Nice. All right. So, as Troy said earlier on, you got your hand in a couple pies with Nerds Rule the World and Nerds of Color. So, tell us a little bit more about each of those things.
Okay, yeah. Well, NRW, formerly New Release Wednesday, now Nerds Rule the World, was actually something I started way back when to try and sell to Mr. Josh Geppi over there at Diamond and Previews World, to kind of, and it's essentially what y'all are doing now. It was kind of like a precursor before you guys were really doing it. So I'm loving that Previews World is killing it. Y'all are amazing, and happy to now join in. It's essentially what y'all are doing is what I wanted to do. And so since I didn't do it with him at that time, did it on my own and have a lot of fun with it. And kind of just branched off into other media outside of the comics with film people, TV, just various pop culture items. And that grew into being a POC, myself being a person of color, then finding the nerds of color. And
sorry, you said that grew into being a POC. I was like, wait a minute, man, were you?
Well, yeah, well, finding my tribe, as a person of color within the pop culture medium, what I'm saying, you kind of connect with other nerds of color, and and the focus of the nerds of color is to kind of shine that light on our representation. And so that was a definite, partnership that I wanted to establish. So shout out to my boy Keith Chow over at the Nerds of Color. And so we just kind of combine forces. A lot of what I do is represented on the Nerds of Color site. As you can see there, so been with them, kind of highlighting that. So kind of like everything with the NRW and then POC specific with the NOC. And last year I started up a Filipino focused podcast called Show Pal Show, being that I'm of Filipinx descent. And where I just kind of highlight, Filipinos that are within the industry. Well, actually also various industries, because we don't just cover entertainment. We also cover people that are out there in politics that are of Filipino descent and other authors that are out there. So yeah, just got a lot of love for that. Yeah, we're on Libsyn. We're on Apple, Spotify, everywhere. If you can only do audio, if you like work for a classified position, because we are in the DC area, and you can only get streaming audio, you can check it out there. And then we have the video portion that's on YouTube. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Thank you.
So with each of those things, what are you kind of hoping that your audience gets out of them?
Well, with Show Pal Show, since that's like the most recent project that's out there, I think we're on episode 36 now. I'm hoping that younger Filipinos that are out there can feel that they can make it in whatever industry they choose to do. That's why I do Filipinx in any industry, to just that we can make it, that we're valid, that we exist, because as Filipinos, a lot of time, especially those that want to get into the arts, like myself, we're kind of pushed to go to a more quote unquote responsible route, like engineer, doctor, lawyer, accountant, nurse, just because it's part of that immigrant story. They want the better for us. They don't kind of see the arts being something, because it is a difficult medium to succeed in. So to have the Show Pal Show out there, show that we as Filipinos can make it in the arts. I've had some amazing guests like Dante Bosco, who is kind of like one of the biggest representatives for us as Filipino Americans. Last year, Diana Paragas with Yellow Rose, she was on the show. She really kind of showcased us as Filipinos, and I've a ton of other amazing guests coming up. Bobby Rubio, who was at Pixar with Float, recently had Will Portacio on, big comic book legend. He did some work on Lumpia with a Vengeance, which is a major book, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later. He was recently on. So just the community coming together for that, and just hopefully inspiring younger Filipinos that are out there. And with my work with the Nerds of Color, just kind of showcase our representation is always a big thing with me. Representation matters. And so just everything that I do with the knock, I really hope inspires those of us of color that, if we don't get the light in the mainstream books, here we are, we're out there, we're doing it, and you can do it too.
I love that.
That's an incredible message.
Look at that. Peter's like right on, Patrick, showing support for us Pinoys. Yes.
Oh, hey, much love, Peter.
Yeah, I can tell you.
And one last thing, Johnny was throwing up some of the sites, but just to be clear, plug yourself. Where can people find Nerds of the World, Nerds of Color, and the Show Pal Show?
Awesome, thank you. For me, Kuya P, you can follow me at Strain since 1977, as well as at Temple Far East, because I'll obviously share everything that I'm doing on my personals. The Nerds of Color is thenerdsofcolor.org. And for our socials, it's at the Nerds of Color on everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. NRW, where Nerds Rule the World, at the NRW and at New Release Wednesday. That's Twitter, one's IG. And for Show Pal Show, and this is very important because a lot of people misspell it. Show Pal Show is at Show Pal Show on pretty much everything, and it's SHOPOWSHO. So at Show Pal Show on everything. We'd appreciate a follow, subscribe. That helps us out a lot. And please comment. Let us know who you want us to bring on and who you want me to interview. Always looking for more content and people to spotlight.
Absolutely. And I will tell you right now. Oh, hold on. Peter's back. He says, "I agree, Patrick. I was a Phil Am journalist in Los Angeles in the 1980s. It was a lonely struggle back then." Oh wow, nice.
Hey Peter, reach out to me. Let's talk. I want to showcase that story. There's a lot of stories out there like him. He's been in the game for a while, man, and that deserves to be told. You know, it all is that Phil Am story that was never told. That's what I want to do with Show Pal Show is help bring it to the people because we've been in here, we've been doing it. Deserve that love and representation.
Absolutely. I will confess to you, I almost introduced you and I was going to say some Tagalog and I was like, I'm not going to do it.
Hey, I know very little. I'm trying. We can learn together, bro. Hey, let's do
there
it.
you go. There you go. No, I mean, look, you're from the same area as I am. There's a lot of Filipinos in this area. Like I have, some of my best friends are Filipinos. There you go. But like, it's the culture is real and the culture's there and it deserves to be celebrated. So much respect to you for doing that, man. Speaking of culture,
thanks for those questions, Ashton.
Of course. Thank you for answering it.
Let's pivot actually to the comic book culture, right? So we got a mainstay who's making a return and he's jumping on a major book. Ashton, what is in the news this week?
Okay, so John Romita Jr. is back and better than ever. He's returning to Marvel Comics. Let me pull up my notes. He is returning to Marvel Comics to celebrate their 60th anniversary of Fantastic Four. He's jumping on with Fantastic Four number 35 with Dan Slott. And in a quote, he said, "I've read and been told by much smarter people that luck is the residue of design, so I won't even attempt to claim I designed the events of these last few months, but I will take this kind of luck any day. I was lucky to begin my career with Marvel, and now I'm extremely lucky to reconnect with Marvel." So he will be coming back to Marvel on Fantastic Four number 35. I have absolutely not made the effort to figure out when this book comes out, and that's my fault. Johnny helped me.
It's August. They're being very vague. They just said August. Yeah, it was just generally August. Yeah, I was about to say, are you a big fan of
date that I didn't read? Did I miss it? Okay, I'm glad that it's just vague. August. All right, so keep an eye out for that.
Where did he go? Like, I love him, man. Like,
he went to
I know he's at DC for a little bit, but
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. So you're a big JR fan?
And you know what's crazy about that? When he first burst on the scene and when I was getting into comics, I couldn't stand him. But like his style though, was just different. And then I became a fan and I'm still a fan. But yeah, at first he wasn't that traditional, Marvel artist, at that time. Man, when I was the 90s getting into it, it was very blocky. And then it grew on me, and I fell in love with him.
I was about to ask you too. Was this like the 90s? Because I've heard that a couple of times about
his uncanny work. I didn't like his uncanny X-Men at the time because he was wasn't he following after Silverstreet and Jim Lee at that time?
Yeah,
and I was like, nah, bro. Like, give me Silverstreet or Lee back. That's who I wanted. And
that's exactly what it was. Like, I've heard that so many times, man. It's like people are like, I didn't like him at first, but I guess over the years they kind of, you start to kind of appreciate different art styles. Like, I'm sure I know for myself, I was like, in the 90s, it was like, Eric Larson and Jim Lee, like you said, and that was like it. You know what I mean? Like if it didn't look like that, I didn't want it for a long time. And then I was sort of like, oh, there's different ways you can enjoy these characters, and I love that. So, the other big thing that I didn't want to land on too hard, but I just wanted to bring this up. Right? There was an AT&T and Discovery merger this past week, right? And I was just curious, what do you guys think about this? Because I'm seeing a lot of chatter. I've seen a lot of people. I don't know why people do this every single time. Like every time one of these behemoths moves their weight just a little bit, right? People start freaking out and thinking that DC Comics is going to die. And I don't know why that is. Like, it's just so bizarre to me. Like, and I'm curious, how do you guys think this will impact media? Because I think the kids are going to be all right.
I don't will impact anything. I can't the same thing with what you just said. I can't understand why this is a reoccurring concern. Like, even if for some crazy, inexplicable reason, Warner decided tomorrow we're done with this, and cut ties with all of like the DC licenses, someone else would pick it up. So it's not a problem. Like they're not going to go anywhere. I'm not sure what the catastrophizing is about.
Yeah, my only concern is I have relationships with people at Warner Media, and I get a lot of inside buzz for things that I'm doing. That I just don't want to lose them. I want those connections to that content that I want to cover, to the people I want to interview, and they're amazing people. So I just hope they don't lose their jobs in that sense. But the things we love, because we love them and they know we love them, that's too much of a cash cow for them to lose. I have no fear of losing that material. So my concern is personal concerns with just amazing folks that I have relationships with to help, create that buzz and that word about projects.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, there's, it's needless to say, when there are these mergers, like there's going to be that, I hate this term, but redundancies, right? And that's inevitability with some of these things. And I know DC just had a round of those, right? But at the same time, I'm with you. Like I know people who work for Warner Media, Warner Media. And I hope that they come out of the other side of this okay. Actually, speaking of which, you did a couple of. Well, I know Nerds of Color did a whole bunch of Mortal Kombat interviews, right?
That was me. Yeah, that was me. Amazing. It was a lot of fun, and to find out that they were fans of our content. Liu Kang at the end of our interview, hey, can we do a selfie? That was amazing. So to know that I have a fan of Liu Kang, Ludi Lin, just good times, great people. I won't talk about how I feel. I thought the film was all right. I think there's a lot of, because everybody bugs you. What do you think about the film? I saw it quite a bit before it came out, and it hurt to not talk about it prior to, because NDAs and all that. But I enjoyed the film. It was a lot of fun. Could have been better. Yeah. Do I want another one? Hell yeah. Good stuff, and great cast. The representation, as being the Nerds of Color, amazing. We definitely got it. Everyone came in to put their best foot forward, and they did it. So shout out to everybody on there: Joe, Taslim, Max Wong, Ludi Lin, Louis Tan, Jennifer, everybody, Jessica McAfee, everybody, Josh Lawson. I'm trying to remember everybody's names. Chin Han, they killed it, because you got to give respect to the people behind it, and they did an amazing job with what they worked with. Just scripts, because we're writers. You and I, Troy. We have a certain sense with things with content. Just wish the script was a little bit better, but I think they did. They worked with what they had. They had a lot of characters to work with.
They did. They maybe added one too many characters, but that's a whole other conversation. But a great group of people. Great group of people. Absolutely. Actually, I wanted to ask you a little bit about. I've been seeing you've been getting some heavy hitters lately. Like I saw you interviewed Zach. You got Zack Snyder. You did a little thing with Dave Bautista too.
Yeah, the Army of the Dead cast.
What's this about?
I have a relationship with Netflix, so got to interview everybody on Army of the Dead. Amazing folks. Great job. I can't wait for it. Well, it is now out in theaters, and it will be now streaming on Netflix as of this Friday. But just had the luxury of talking to those great folks and what they did on the film. Again, another film that gave us representation, which was amazing, with everybody that was involved in the cast. And they were a delight. I've got a lot more heavy hitters on your way, though, bro. Another great film that came out last week as well, The Paper Tigers. I want to shout them out. If you haven't heard of that, if you were into Kung Fu martial arts films, that film was like 10 years in the making to make happen. And everybody involved with that really stepped up, and it delivers on representation. And just a fun film. It was actually classified as one of the best martial arts films of all time already. So shout out to them on The Paper Tigers. But a lot of good stuff coming away. I got some stuff in the camp, in the pocket. I got one that's coming this Friday that's going to be amazing. Stay tuned. Nerds of Color.
All right, cool. Actually, I am looking forward to that Paper Tigers movie. Actually, so I'm gonna. I'll probably hold off on watching any of the interviews like I normally do until after I see it. But I will watch it. I will check it out.
Let me know, and I can. There's a bunch of great folks behind that film. I can hook up if you want to talk to them as well, man. They're great guys.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Yeah, look at that. That's awesome. Okay, let's jump over to a trailer real quick. So Heroes Are Born. I'm not talking about the 90s Heroes Reborn. I'm talking about the 2021 Heroes Reborn. It's a thing, and it's really happening. And I actually saw a blurb the other day that said it's probably one of Marvel's best events in a while. If you guys have an opinion about that, let us know in the comments. I have not read it yet, but you know what? We're going to show you a little bit more of it right now with this trailer. So check this out. Heroes Reborn from Marvel. All right, there you go. Heroes Reborn. That's out from Marvel right now. It's an event, so it kind of spreads out across the Avengers books, and then there's a Heroes Return book, and then there's a Heroes Reborn book. It's being spearheaded by Jason Aaron, and you know, truthfully, more importantly for me, it's being spearheaded by artist Ed McGuinness, because I just love the way Ed McGuinness draws. And that's in comic shops right now, so definitely check that out. Yeah. Do you remember the Heroes Reborn from the 90s?
Oh, totally. Like, I was confused as well when it first was announced or whatever, and then I finally saw this trailer in the lead up to this. I'm all about it. I'm in it because for you as well, Ed McGuinness. I have a couple of pages on my wall in my studio of his when he was on Incredible Hulk that are treasured original pieces of art for me. So yeah, I'm a big fan of McGuinness. Can't wait to see how he's going to kill it on this Reborn, man. And Aaron's amazing as well, Jason Aaron. So I'm intrigued. Let's do it. Now, and was that Ronin T'Challa?
Yeah, it looked like it kind of was. Yeah, I was kind of confused by that. There seems to be a lot of hybrids kind of happening in the book too, which is interesting. And I don't know what it is. Like, I'm always a big fan of them just dusting off the Squadron Supreme and kind of like letting them play in the Marvel sandbox, because ultimately they're the Justice League. Like, let's be very honest about this. You know what I mean? But they're deliberately meant to be the Justice League, and so it's always interesting to see them kind of square off with the Avengers. So yeah, we'll see what's up with that. The one thing I'm curious about, this is as much for Ashton as it is for you, Patrick, is are we going to get a return to the massive pectoral muscles of the previous Heroes Reborn by Rob Liefeld? Is that going to make a comeback? I know for Ashton, I know Ashton's just chomping at the bit for that moment to come back. That's got you all over it, right, Ashton?
I love that. It's very appropriate. We should do it again. It was very successful the first time.
Yeah,
totally successful.
It was great. We loved it. We all loved it. It wasn't goofy at all.
Did you see the meme that they did, kind of like a nod to that Reborn pectoral thing, when they dropped that Falcon and Winter Soldier poster, and they did it in that Liefeld style from the Reborn stuff? I was like, get out of town. That was amazing.
it felt kind of grotesque, but also hilarious at the same time. It's just sort of like, oh. I just I just wanted to go away, but it was just I couldn't help but laugh of it. Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
No.
Yeah. Johnny Johnny actually kind of like photo bombed us with this like a couple of weeks ago, because he was like, oh, we were talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's like, have you guys seen this? And he did it live and just showed it to us. And I was like, oh my God.
Hey, shout out to Johnny. Respect. That's awesome.
All right. So we talked a little bit about Asian American creators and Pacific Island creators as well in the game. And now we're going to do like a major spotlight here. It is AAIP month here, not just at Previews World, of course, but like, all around. So let's get into it. We're going to do a little social swap. We'll let our audience sound off, and then Patrick's going to put us on to some creators as well. Let's go.
Okay, so like Troy said, we asked you guys to spotlight your favorite Asian American Pacific Islander creators. And it could be kind of anybody across the board in comics, writers, artists, inkers, letters, whatever you got. Sky's the limit. Tell us who you love. Also, sorry in advance if I mispronounce names. I feel fairly confident that will happen. It is not intentional. So let's see what you guys said.
I wanted Johnny to take it easy on you, Ashton, but I forgot to mention that.
I like panic. I'm like, if I see something that I don't immediately know how to pronounce, I panic, and then I say it way worse because I'm panicking. Okay, Brian says Gwenpool was one of my favorite comics when it was drawn by. Oh, help!
It's like the first one.
I just don't want to be rude. I feel like it's rude, like butchering people's names, especially when we're trying to be respectful.
Right, yeah. You know, and I'm no better because, like, he's a fairly newer artist for me, or that's a fairly newer artist, so I'm not familiar with the name. But I want to say Gurihiru is what I want to say.
Their style is so unique and is instantly recognizable by any comic if they're the artists behind it.
All right.
Don says, Ming Lee, I found out he was making Green Lantern Legacy about a Vietnamese American Green Lantern, and it resonated so much with me, especially since Green Lantern is my favorite comic book character.
Very cool.
Charlie says, Marjorie Liu is a stellar writer.
Takeda?
Okay. Is a breathtaking artist, and together they've crafted the richest fantasy series since Sandman.
Yeah.
Cap 13 says Peach Momoko. I love her art. I love how her art reflects historical Japanese artwork. At least I see it that way.
I could kind of see that.
Billy says Larry Hama, who played a huge part in creating many of the G.I. Joe characters we know and love. And Daryl says Stan Sakai from reading Usagi Yojimbo, of course.
Okay, all right. So Patrick, there's something I actually want to ask you about, but I'm gonna save it to the end because you mentioned a creator that, like, I recently found out some details about that I thought was interesting. But before we even get into any of that, put us onto some game, man. Like, tell us what's going on. Like, what's going on in the world of AAPI creators?
All right. Well, first off, I'm going to tackle the big two just to get the big two out the way, because that's what most people are going to see. And so, with Marvel in August, and I'm going to mispronounce this name as well, so my apologies in that regard. In-Yuk Lee is penciling some covers in August for Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage variant covers, AAPI covers. It's going to be in August, not this month, unfortunately.
Right.
You have to wait till then, but just amazing artwork.
Look at that.
You can see right here, laying down some amazing covers in a little bit non-traditional style as well.
Yeah.
Style you don't see your heroes normally in, but still in their costumes as well, as you can see there. Just amazing work. I love him. Well, I'm not sure if it's a him or her, but just amazing work. I can't wait to check that out. Very Stanley Artgerm Lau, if you're a fan of Artgerm. Huge fan of his, and Lee is amazing as well. I would probably in August
say I would probably say he's a little bit better than Stanley Artgerm, but anyway, that's just
hey, let's not do that. Much love to
you know, it's a celebration. It's a celebration. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put the fanboy aside. And
no worries, because I know Artgerm. Stanley's cool. Okay. I don't know any of Lee. I know Sand, but they're both cool. Anyway. Also from Marvel, they're doing their Marvel's Voices series. They're doing an Identity #1 that's AAPI specific. I love each one of these artists: Jean Lun Yang, Christina Strain, Greg Pak, Marine Gu, and more. Marcus To on art, Jason Liu, Chris Lees, Lin Yoshi, Marshall Ahmed, Jim Chung on the cover. Just going to be amazing. The Marvel Voices has just been a great series from Marvel that gives us representation, and for them to do an AAPI specific one, and with Shang-Chi dropping, as you see, Shang-Chi on the cover there. We got Silk, Jubilee, Miss Marvel. I love it. You love to see it. So shout out to Marvel giving us some API representation. And over on the DC side, not to let Marvel step over them. DC still trying to show love. They have their Festival of Heroes, the Asian Superhero Celebration.
That's right.
We got my man Bernard Chang. I love him. Marcus To, Audrey Mock, Marcio Takada, Amy Chu, Dustin Wynn, Ramvi, Jean Lun Yang, again back over on Marvel as well. Killing it. That just came out last week. Last week.
It did.
It's in stores now. You see, I think there's also some nuggets of some new characters introduced in that. So FYI for you collectors out there, you want some first appearances, we're getting some good stuff in there. So that's your Marvel DC stuff. Yeah.
I just want to point out real quick. The Batgirl that like was my first Batgirl was actually that one. So it was Cassandra. Yeah. So yeah, like before I even gave to whatever about Barbara Gordon, that was my Batgirl.
I feel that. Shout out to and we got her in Birds of Prey with Ella J. Bosco, man.
Did we? Okay, I'll behave. I'm sorry. I'll behave.
All right. Yeah, it wasn't truly our Batgirl. Anyway,
Right.
So indie wise, you know what I'm saying? Because again, before you can get to the Marvel 2, Marvel DC is always going to get that love, but there's this independence that, shout out to my independents that are creating, doing what they really want to do and shine. Yeah. I recently covered a film called Lumpia with a Vengeance. They're touring the festival circuit right now. It's a sequel to the original film Lumpia. It's a very Filipino story where it's a kind of a superhero that fights with lumpia. If you love to eat lumpia, he actually uses lumpia as weapons. And they did a prelude comic that I covered that came out earlier in the year. And now their interlude comic just dropped actually in stores and is available. I don't know if Diamond's covering it yet, but hopefully you guys will. But just an amazing, very fan service driven comic that just gives you more details behind scenes you see in the film. And Will Portacio is on there doing a story, who we know and love from Uncanny X-Men, from Punisher, from Wetworks. He contributed. Just an amazing cast of folks involved with that. And so I just definitely want to show Patricio Janelsa, Lawrence Uriarte, Ray Sudero, they're all about their fans and all about the fans that love Lumpia, and this comic delivers if you're all about that material. So shout out to them, man. And yeah, that's number one out the gate indie wise. For the other one, my man Epic Props, Jerry Ma, just dropped a Kickstarter campaign that I think is already super successful now, but still contribute because what he's doing with this campaign is because of all of the Asian, the violence that has been happening towards we as Asian folk, to our elders and our women, the proceeds that he's making off this outside of printing the book is he actually just, I think over this past weekend, went and donated this money to businesses that were affected by a lot of, these incidences that were occurring and from the pandemic. So his heart's in the right place to, outside of just making the book happen, he wants to give back to our community. And he went to I think 10 different businesses and dropped off checks or actually envelopes of cash to help support these businesses. And so you love to see that. That's amazing. Yeah. And with everything that's going on, man, shout out to my boy, Jerry Ma.
Yeah,
and please support the book. It's still out there. You can actually, he just dropped a recent category on his campaign that he will draw you into the final issue of the book. So if you ever wanted to be in a comic book, Troy, I know you'd look sexy in there, man. You're drawn in there. So that's a tier. Be in the last issue.
I hate finding out about Kickstarters after the fact. I'm always like, ah, damn it! I wish I could have got on the ground floor with this. But I'll throw some dollars. I'll do my part for the next issue. I love it. Actually, for a second, can you just pretend that I have never heard of or know anything about Lumpia? Can you tell us what it is?
Oh, Lumpia the food or the movie?
The food.
Oh, Lumpia is oh my gosh, it's essentially an egg roll. Everybody knows egg roll, but lumpia is kind of like a thinner rice paper.
It's clear, right? Okay. Uh-huh.
Yes, it's clear. It's a lot smaller than your normal fried egg roll, and it has carrots, like a meat. It depends. It could either be a shrimp, chicken, or pork. I was just raised on it, and I used to help make it with my parents. With my mom specifically. And it's amazing. If you love egg rolls, to me, this is to a whole nother extreme. It's the ultimate party food. And now because of Lumpia Vengeance, it's used as weapons to make people just chill out. It's so good. It's so good. Right. And if you haven't had it, Troy, I'll bring some to you, man.
I will take it. I actually realized I have had that before. I actually did not know what it was called. There you go. Yeah. I know Pancit.
Pancit? Yeah. Yep. Ashton, have you had lumpia before? Ashton?
I was like, at first I didn't know what it was, and then Johnny pulled up the picture. I was like, yeah, definitely has that before.
Awesome.
You know,
Our
we're
food is
Americans.
amazing, people.
Peter's Lumpia shaming. You don't know Lumpia? You should have been invited to a dinner at a Filipino house. I actually have. I've been to debuts, like, you know, and I've had it before. So I just didn't know what it was called because I like to just
no worries.
I just eat food and don't ask questions. So there you go.
Well, that's what we're all about. We do not leave hungry. That's how we show love and kinship and friendship with everyone in the Filipino community. Is we eat. You know, that's how we come. You have to eat, because if not, then we're gonna look at you a little funny. No, eat. We take care of our people. I love it.
Peter says, we feed you well. I love it.
Peter knows what's up.
I love it. No, thanks for those shout outs, man. I actually wanted to ask you, well, I don't even know if it's necessarily a question, but like something I found out I thought was kind of interesting. So I do a comic, right? And on I'm going to give a little shout out to our artist, Julius Abrera. He's done a bunch of stuff with Xenoscope, but he's also doing my comic, Fight of the Century. And one thing he told me that I actually did not realize is how much of a creative influence Whilce Portacio is in the Filipino world, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, you know, I get the impression that there's like a whole generation of Filipino artists that who have like just taken to the comic book field because of him, you know, which I thought was pretty interesting. So
yeah, he's like our legend, man, you know, because of I think just with laying it down on Uncanny X-Men, creating a character in Bishop there. And then, you know, when the big artists moved out of Marvel to create Image Comics, he was like our big representative. And I think that was kind of like the gateway. And then with him being there and having his own, you know, with Wetworks and his own studio, he then brought up Gary Alanguilan. I also want to say he brought up Edgar Tadeo, just an amazing group of Filipino creators. Kind of that movement happened, and Whilce is the godfather for that, and he is just the sweetest, most knowledgeable guy about the industry, and he pays respects to the cats that came before him. As we all know, if you're a longtime comic head, we had Alfredo Acala. Who else did we have? Oh my God, it's escaping me now that I'm trying to think of all the names. But like on the Savage Sword of Conan, you know, Conan was like a big thing for me. A lot of those artists that worked on like Blade and Conan were like Filipino artists, and oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember all their names. Akala is the biggest one that's sticking in my head right now. But just that we've been in the game for a long time. But Portacio on when with the X-Men being just, you know, the biggest selling title, and then them forming Image, because Image kind of like transcended like a lot of things with comics, I think, because here are the superstar artists now wanting to tell their own stories, and that with Whilce being part of that lineup was like, wow, we don't have to worry about Marvel and DC. We can actually create our own Filipino superhero. And he did that with Grail on Wetworks and some of his other characters. And then when he brought Gary Alanguilan, and he did Stone, and then Gary started doing his own works, and rest in peace, my man, Gary Alanguilan, who is just was a beast in his time, and deserves respect. But just that paved the way for a lot of us and inspired a lot of us, and nothing but respect. Even my boy Bobby Rubio, who we know from Pixar Studios on Float, that just recently had like 6 million views. He was inspired by Portacio. And actually, when I have an interview coming with Bobby Rubio soon on Show Pal Show. Stay tuned on the Nerds of Color. We talked about that and how he got started, because he actually started working with Jim Lee before he got into animation. And, so yeah, Portacio is a god, man, to us. Totally. No,
I love that. Yeah, no, like I just, you know, I know who Whilce Portacio is, but I never heard his name getting mentioned a lot, especially when people are talking about the Image revolution and whatnot. You know, his name didn't get brought up a lot. And I'm like, well, he was definitely part of that exodus, part of that the building of Image Comics, like, you know, and of course he was on the X books back in the day. So yeah, I just want to give that a little bit of a shout out.
Remember he was on Punisher?
He was on Punisher, yes, he was.
That I used to get the magazine outside of the comic, and that was amazing. His work is brilliant. I love his work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's very unique too.
Oh, Ernie Chan.
Ernie Chan. There you go. Thanks, Peter. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Speaking actually, the first Filipino to draw 2 to 3 monthly comics at one time. Damn. Bam at DC as penciler. Batman is DC as penciler. Conan at Marvel, inking John Buscema. Okay, nice, awesome. See, there you go. A little bit of education, a little bit of support
with the Ollie. I appreciate that. Yeah, that is a beast, man. We've been in the game a minute, man. I I love it. And I'm sorry, I'm stuttering now, but because I want to just put more names out there because we've been killing it. And so yeah, Ernie Chan, Alfredo Cala, there's so many. Lanil Yu. I think that's more this generation. They know Lanil Francis Yu. He's a beast. Just so many amazing, talented Filipinos out there.
Absolutely. I mean, people do the homework, look into these things. He's dropped a couple of names, but this is also a lot of interconnectivity. Like you pointed out with Will Spertaccio and how he kind of creates a bunch of branches on his own. There's plenty to discover and find out. So definitely do your part. Celebrate AAPI month by doing your homework and celebrating some of these creators for sure. One quick thing, and then we're going to probably go over to our weekly poll. Did you get a chance to watch the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes trailer at all?
I did. I don't know if you know, I'm a big G.I. Joe head, man. I cosplay as Tunnel Rat, cosplayed as Zap. I'm part of a cosplay G.I. Joe group in the Finest. Shout out to my cats in the Finest. Yeah, man, I'm super psyched. I'm a long-time G.I. Joe fan to see it happen. Love Henry Golding. I know there's a lot of people that are a little upset about him being cast and them changing kind of the existing history. But to me, Larry Hama signed off on it. And you know what? There's been a lot of wrongs that have occurred to us as Asian Americans with our representation. So I'm happy to see this one happen. As long as they're saying true and Larry signed off on it, I'm all for it. And for me, I can't give it enough of a review. My boy Keith over at the Nerds of Color, he actually spoke with Henry Golding, and we have an interview with Henry Golding on the Nerds of Color site. So check that out as well. But yeah, we both talked back and forth because we're both deep G.I. Joe heads. And it's not enough for us to kind of really say anything yet. It's too much of a teaser, Right, but we like what we're seeing. I'm loving it.
There you go. Ashton, are you a big G.I. Joe fan? they go hand in hand.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. I was like, for me, G.I. Joe is super important so that all of my Barbies could have boyfriends.
Respect. Okay. No height shaming.
This trailer found me. I was on Twitter minding my own business, and it found me. I have to watch it now.
No, I mean, it's a cool trailer, and some of the stuff they're pulling from is actually from the recent IDW comics too, which is also kind of cool. And I'm glad you actually got to the point that I was getting to before I could get to it. But I saw the little comment that Larry Hama made about continuity. And I thought it was actually pretty interesting. I had Johnny pull it up for us because, like I said, people are complaining somewhat about the differences in continuity between the comics to the TV show and to the movies, et cetera, et cetera. Although the movies have never been the best on continuity in general. But Larry Hama, he pointed out something I thought was kind of interesting. He said, "I really do not understand the continuity purists." And I thought this part was really interesting. Don't they know that the entire 185 issue timeline to date is one long retcon, and that I never had a structured long view? I made up the story literally page by page. If I was still adhering to the same timeline, all the main characters would now be in their 70s. I really love where the filmmakers have taken it, and they have all done so with the greatest respect. And I just thought that was really amusing because I think people forget sometimes that these writers are hired guns, you know what I mean, when it comes to these big franchises. And so Larry Hama's I don't want to say he's making up as he's going along, but he's definitely flights of fancy, definitely a lot of whimsy when he's building out the mythos of G.I. Joe. And he's been integral to it, and he's been doing it for years. So his name goes hand in hand with G.I. Joe. So shout out to him as well. Ashton, what is this week's poll? What do you got going on?
This week I'm really worried about the potential outcome of any sort of apocalypse.
Did something bring this up?
Yes. I was scrolling through the new releases page, trying to select what I wanted to talk about today. I picked We Live, which is an apocalypse story. I scrolled past a bunch of the Walking Dead variants and finding it, and a handful of other things that are apocalypse stories, and I was like, damn, I'm worried about us. What's gonna happen? I took to Twitter. I asked everyone on the Free Comic Book Day page how they felt about their chances in an apocalypse.
All right, what are our options here? What do we got here?
All right, so I asked you guys, how would you fare in an apocalypse? Your choices are one of the first to go. Doesn't stand a chance. Pretty middle of the road. You'll be around for a while and then you're out of here. And then you thrive, you kill it. You're the Rick Grimes of it all. You're biting people's throats. You got this covered.
You know, it actually, can we get a list of all the people said I thrive? Because we got to target them first.
Right.
They're the apex predators. They're certain that they're going to get through this. You know what? I'm going to give it to you, Patrick. Where do you fall in this trio?
I'd like to think, but see, you just said you're going to target me. I think I thrive, but you're going to target me. So I don't know if I want to say that right now.
I mean, what does your instinct say? It says I thrive.
Are you talking to me? Sorry, what?
Oh, I was asking Patrick, but I'm also.
Me? I definitely think I thrive. Yeah, hell yeah. I've watched enough G.I. Joe. I grew up in the 80s. I'm a survivalist. You know, I've worked for the military. I was in the military. I worked for the government here and there. Hell yeah. That you ain't. I've already got a plan. I'm a CI guy too. Like I've already thought 10 steps ahead of you. What you think you might get at me? So nah. I think I'll be all right.
So we're going to stay on your good side. So definitely, I thrive. Ashton, where do you fall on this?
You know what? I feel very middle of the road about this. I think, you know, like Patrick said, I've consumed enough content that I'm like, you know, I have ideas, I have theories. I'm like, you know, you want to get to an island, that way you can kind of like block off the borders, whatever, live off of seafood. Somebody else pointed this out in the comments, and I actually agree. I think the thing that would take me down would be like, I would get an injury and then it would get wildly infected and I'd die.
You know, but you know what? I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I just know how awful I am to tending to like just basic household injuries. Like, I kind of feel like, yeah, if there was a situation where I got gangrene, I would be put down.
Right,
what is this?
That's the end of the road.
Yeah. Sam Creedy says, I can barely read it. I'm combat tough. Go for it, Ashton. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm combat tough, so I expect the thing to get me would be an underlying health problem that goes untreated rather than raided for wild animals.
Yeah, my only hope is like I don't do something stupid like eat a can of like expired beans and then die of like dysentery or something. You know what I mean? Like that would be my only hope.
Trail.
But I'm a lot better than my fiance, because Liz, every situation that she throws out there, she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna let them bite me. I'm just gonna let the zombies bite me. Like I'm just gonna let the vampires like kill me. Like every situation, it doesn't matter what it is. Like she's just like, I'm just gonna give up." Johnny said dysentery. Is this the apocalypse or the Oregon Trail? Well, that's the whole point, Johnny. We're gonna go back to the Oregon Trail once the apocalypse kicks in. So, you know. But okay, you know what? Patrick said he's gonna thrive. So let's see who else is in his camp. All right. Oh, wow. Okay.
Interesting.
All right. Yeah. Some people are kind of like most people, but not a huge amount, are under the impression that they would be middle of the road, that they eke out a couple of wins before they ultimately perish. Which, you know, I think I'm in the same category. I think I'd eke out a couple of wins before I ultimately perish. And I think as soon as my car runs out of gas, I'd be screwed, and that'd be it. So I'd make it past state lines, and then once I'm on foot, God knows what's going to happen to Troy.
That's it. Good run.
Right. So there you go. All right. So yeah, 19.7% are on board. Johnny says Johnny's in the in our little chat is saying very telling of our nerd-centric audience that a third would die off first.
Well, I gotta give you the preface. What type of apocalypse? Because if it's zombie, I think I'll thrive. But if it's a quiet place style apocalypse where I can't make any sound, I'm dead. I'm dead because I talk too much. I'm too loud. Like, I'm dead.
Man, you know, I didn't even think about that. Like, I'm thinking zombies. I'm thinking zombies, Mad Max. I didn't even think about it quietly. I'd be screwed in a quiet place.
It depends on, what type of apocalypse.
Would you survive?
The thing that wouldn't even get me in a quiet place is my loud mouth, although I do have a loud mouth. It's that I walk so damn heavy. It would just be my footsteps.
Yeah, right.
Like, that would be the worst part about this. Like, our apartment just got a noise complaint just for heavy walking. So I'm like, I'm screwed. I'm totally screwed. Like, it's just not going to work. All right. You know what? I wanted to talk about Jupiter's Legacy, and I wanted to talk about Bad Batch. But we're down to like a minute, and Johnny's probably going to tell us he's got to go. He's got to kick us off soon. So, Ashton, just real quick, give us your Bad Batch reactions.
Okay, so my first Bad Batch reaction is that I know for a fact I watched the first 2 episodes, although for whatever reason I have no recollection of the second episode, so I'm not really sure what that's about.
The second episode was kind of mad.
Maybe that's why. I'm not sure. Like, I know I watched both of these, but I could not tell you a single thing that happened in the second episode. I'm super excited about this. I always have a lot of like questions, concerns, issues about the Order 66 thing, and just kind of like the general murder. And there's a lot of like plot holes in there anyway, in terms of the way things shake out down the line. So I think this will plug a lot of that in. Also, I really like Saw Gerrera in Rogue One, so I'm excited to see him come back.
No, absolutely. No, I'm on board with that. Like this is one of those shows where like the question, they made all these other movies, right? And I'm like, I don't really care about any of these things. Like, but this is what I care about. I care about like when did we transition from the Republic to the Empire, and who made that decision? You know what I mean? Why did we switch from clones? Yeah, right. Why did we switch from clones to like actual people troopers or whatever you want to call them, right? So that stuff is actually really fascinating to me. So, and also I just like the idea of like the clones that are just the rejects because they have too much personality. I find that fascinating. What about you? What about you, Patrick? Got a hot take?
I'm with you on that. That's what I love most about the Bad Batch is exactly what you said. Here's some rejects because we're all different and we should relish and take pride in our difference, and they do that, and I think it's so entertaining. So I'm with you. That's what to me makes Bad Batch so beautiful and such a fun experience in the show. Yeah,
actually,
I'm also excited about Tarkin to see kind of like what his trajectory is.
No, absolutely. Actually, I just saw on War of the Bounty Hunters that like Tarkin has his own ship, even though he's passed away, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like there's like a Tarkin ship that's like dedicated to him. So I'm curious where they're going to go with that in the comics too. But you know what? Actually, Patrick, you kind of ended it on the perfect note, right? We talked about AAPI month, right? Heritage Month. And you said something that I actually am a big fan of. Is like, look, we're different, and that's just, look, we were made different, and like that's cool and that's okay. And as soon as you accept that we're different, then you can start understanding. So co-signed 100%. I love that we found that by talking about Star Wars. Who knew?
Yes. It brings us all together.
There you go.
I love it.
Ashton, what is this week's comic shop shout out?
This week's comic shop shout out goes to First Aid Comics in Chicago, Illinois, and it comes from Danny Mormon. They've said their First Aid Comics is a haven for geeks and nerds, and they love how they've incorporated purchasing via email through the pandemic, as well as curbside pickup to keep their business going and keep their nerds happy. Which is something a lot of shops did a really, really great job of over the last year, is finding ways to keep it going and getting creative with it. So we will show you some pictures of First Aid Comics at the end of the show. If you want us to shout out your shop on the show, find us on social media, tag your shop. If they don't have a handle, just leave their name and use the hashtag #SupportYourLCS. We will find your shop, shout them out on the show, and give them some love.
All right, cool. All right, now I'm going to yell a bunch of things real quick just to get out of here. Mass Effect nerds. There's a great article on PrevsWorld.com highlighting all the different Mass Effect titles that are available from Dark Horse. Shout out to Mike Szymanski for putting this together. If you're a fan of the new Mass Effect game and you saw the reveal trailer and you're super excited for it, here's like a little like go-to to kind of quench your thirst once the game is over or while you're waiting to pick it up if you didn't pre-order. So also, another shout out to Mike. He did a great Spawn retrospective. We are dubbing this the year of Spawn because of all the new Spawn books that are popping up this year. Spawn's been a solo character for a very long time. He's had his main book. There's been some little offshoots here and there, but now Todd McFarlane is branching out an entire universe. And so definitely check that out. It's called Take a Visual Retrospective of the history of Spawn, and it's going to put you on to what's up and coming for Spawn Universe, which is coming from Image Comics in a couple of weeks, actually. So definitely check that out. Patrick.
Yo.
Okay, actually, real quick, I'm going to remind people to like, follow, and subscribe to us, to Previews World, to Free Comic Book Day. We're cool, and people like hanging out with us sometimes. So you should definitely check us out and follow us and like us. But on top of that, Patrick, where can people find you?
Hell yeah. Well, I'm liking and following you guys already. So that's a given. So do that. Thank you again. Follow me at Showpow Show, SHOPOWSHO, Personal Strange since 1977, as well as at Temple Far East, at the Nerds of Color on everything, and at the NRW and at New Release Wednesday, where nerds rule the world. Ashton, Troy, I love you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thanks,
this was a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for hanging out with us.
Absolutely. And that's it for Previews World Weekly, guys. I'm one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm your other host, Ashton Greenwood.
And what about you, Patrick?
Kuya P, thank you so much. Special guest, I guess. Thank you.
There you
so
go.
much fun.
And we'll catch you guys at the spinner rack. Catch everybody later.
Don't forget that you can catch Previews World Weekly streaming live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific at Previews World on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.